Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name is Josh, and in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the Citi Double Cash credit card. So I'm going to be going over the main features of this card, its pros as well as its drawbacks. So hopefully by the end of this video, you should have a much better idea of whether or not this card is a good fit for you. But before I go ahead and dive into the main features of the Citi Double Cash card, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Also, if you would like to receive a few free stocks and a pinned comment below as well as in the description box, I will be leaving a few different links where you can receive just that. Okay, so diving right into the main features of the Citi Double Cash card. First off, we're going to be talking about how you can earn cash back or points. And in this case, you can actually earn 2% cash back on every single transaction you make. Now, it is set up a little bit differently because you're going to be earning 1% cash back whenever you make your transaction, and then you're going to be earning the other 1% once you go to pay. So if you add those up, that of course is going to be 2% cash back. And then there's also a bonus category through the rest of 2024, and that bonus category happens to be 5% cash back on both hotels and car rentals through the Citi Travel Portal. Once again, that is going to be through December 31st of 2024. Whether or not that continues on until 2025, we will have to wait and see. Now, there is actually an added perk to the Citi Double Cash that is just introduced very much lately, because before this, in my first video that I reviewed earlier on in 2023, they actually didn't have this perk. It is something that is very special to this card and really puts it up there with the rest of the 2% cashback credit cards, and that is the fact that this card now has a spend bonus. The spend bonus is $200 in cash back as long as you're able to spend at least $1,500 within the first 6 months of having this card. The $1,500 in 6 months should be very doable for most people, considering that's not going to be a lot of spend on an average basis. Now, once again, this is very much huge in my opinion, because before they did not have the spend bonus. So while you could earn 2% cash back on every single transaction as long as you paid off your card in time, you did not have that spend bonus, so it made other cards out there a lot more worth it than this one. But now that they also have the $200 spend bonus, as long as you're able to spend at least $1,500 within the first 6 months, that really puts this card up much higher, at least in my opinion. Now, as far as some other benefits go with this card, you're also going to be receiving a lot of card protection. So for example, you're going to be receiving 24-hour card protection. So Citi will alert you if they see unusual activity on your account. You're also going to be enrolled in ID theft protection program, which is going to be offered through MasterCard. And then finally, you're going to have $0 liability on unauthorized charges. That means that if you drop your wallet and someone picks it up and steals your credit card and they go off and make hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of transactions without your authorization, you will not be held liable to pay for that. So that is super great as well. Or maybe they steal your card number and they go off and make a bunch of charges online. You also will be not liable for those charges because you did not authorize them. So now that we went over the main features of the Citi Double Cash card, I'm now going to go ahead and dive into the APR and fees, because this is also super important as well. So starting out, your purchase APR is going to be anywhere between 19.24 to 29.24% based on your credit worthiness. Now, as far as balance transfers go, they also have a pretty sweet offer with this as well. So starting out for the first 18 months, you are going to have a balance transfer APR of 0%. So what a balance transfer is, basically, if you have another credit card at this point in time that you're carrying a balance and you're paying interest on month to month, let's say that it's like a $5,000 or maybe even $10,000 balance, well, you can transfer the balance from that card. Let's say it's like a Capital One credit card. You can transfer that $5,000 balance from that card over to this card. And instead of paying a very high interest with, say, like your Capital One credit card, you're now paying 0% interest with this Citi Double Cash card, at least for the first 18 months. But whenever the 18 months are up, you're then going to have an APR of anywhere between 19.24 to 29.24% based on your credit worthiness. So definitely make sure to take advantage of those 18 months. Pay the card off if you do happen to take advantage of the balance transfer. And also know that even though there is a 0% intro APR, there is going to be a fee associated with that transfer, and we're going to be covering that in just a moment. Now, as far as some other fees go, if you happen to take out a cash advance on this card, this is something that I always recommend to stay far, far away from, even though this should not be considered financial advice. Just something that I personally stay far away from. If you do happen to take out a cash advance just note that your APR on those is going to be 29.99%. So that is very, very high. Then in addition to that, you're also going to be hit with some fees as well. So as far as the fees on a cash advance go, those are going to be either $10 or 5% of the amount of each cash advance, whichever happens to be greater. And then as far as balance transfers go, once again, even though you are going to have a 0% intro APR on balance transfers for the first 18 months, there is going to be a fee associated with them, and that fee is going to be either $5 or 3% of the amount of each transaction, whichever happens to be greater for the first 4 months. And then after that, that fee is going to go up to either $5 or 5% of the amount of each balance transfer, whichever happens to be greater. So if you do want to take advantage of the balance transfer, it would be much better to do it earlier on within the first 4 months. That way your fee is much lower. And once again, for the first 18 months, you're going to have a 0% intro APR. So if this is something you want to take advantage of, you could definitely make it worthwhile. And once again, I would try to pay it off within the 18 months, because once again, after the first 18 months, you are going to have to start paying interest on your balance. Now, as far as some other fees go with this credit card, there is going to be a foreign transaction fee. The foreign transaction fee on this card is 3%. So it's probably a credit card you'll probably want to leave at home if you do happen to travel abroad. Instead, you might want to take a card that does not have a foreign transaction fee, like a Capital One credit card or most other travel credit cards where they do not have a foreign transaction fee. Then on top of that, there's also going to be a fee if you happen to pay late, or if there is a return payment. That fee is going to be $41. And finally, thankfully, there is no annual fee with this credit card, so you don't have to sit around and analyze every single year whether or not renewing this card for the next year and keeping it for years moving forward is worth it, because there is no annual fee with this credit card. So now that we went over the main features of this card as well as the APR and fees, I'm now going to go ahead and dive into what I would consider to be the biggest pros and cons of the Citi Double Cash Card. So starting out is the fact that you are going to be earning 2% cash back on everything. This is a very simplistic card. There's not any special categories. And once again, it's going to be 1% cash back whenever you make the transaction, and then the other 1% cash back once you pay. So 2% across the board, that's pretty good. Plus, you're also going to be earning 5% cash back on hotels and car rentals booked through the Citi Travel Portal, at least through the end of 2024. Secondly, you're also going to be receiving a $200 spend bonus as long as you're able to spend at least $1,500 within the first 6 months of having this credit card. And then finally, there's also no annual fee with this credit card. So once again, you don't have to sit around and analyze every single year whether or not it's worth keeping, because you're not paying anything for it anyways. Now, as far as the drawbacks of this card go, first off, of course, there is that 3% foreign transaction fee. So you might want to consider having another card in your wallet if you do happen to travel outside the United States. That way you do not get hit with the 3% foreign transaction fee. And then the only other con, at least in my opinion, with this card, it might be super picky, is the fact that there aren't any other special categories where you can earn more cash back. Like for example, maybe they would, if they had like 3 to 4% cash back on gas or groceries on top of the 2% cash back that you receive on everything else, that would be pretty sweet. But 2% cash back across the board is still pretty good. It's consistent. You don't really have to think a whole lot. So all in all, I would say this is a pretty solid credit card to have. So just to sum things up, like I just said a moment ago, 2% cash back across the board is pretty good. It doesn't specialize in any particular categories, but you might also want to consider picking up another card such as the Citi Custom Cash Card, where you are going to be earning 5% cash back in your top spending category automatically. So that might be like groceries, for example. So if you spend $500 per month on groceries, with the Citi Custom Cash Card, you're going to be earning $25 in cash back every single month with that. And then with this card, the Citi Double Cash Card, if you used it for everything else except groceries, you would be earning 2% cash back on everything else. But that's all we have for today's review. I certainly hope that you enjoyed and found it helpful. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.